Welcome to the MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilbert. With me is Brent Hyden. Back after a 3-day weekend. We got a 14-game slate on tap. Not a bad slate to kind of kick off the week here.
Yeah, it looks like it's a pretty fun slate. Some really good pitching options at the top end. Some very interesting mid-range pitching options as well. And unfortunately, we have Coors on the slate. I hate Coors slates.
Yeah, I do too. Especially when it's like last night when you get all the guys like Gorkis Hernandez who do stuff and that's it.
Gorky's, man, he's been on a tear.
We'll talk about that game in a bit. First game here, we got the Yankees and Astros. CC Sabathia take on Charlie Morton. Morton, your more expensive pitching option here. I don't mind him. Like you said, there's a lot of mid-range plays, and I think that's where I'm headed here tonight. But I think Morton's obviously interesting, just given his strikeout stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a fine tournament option. He's definitely not someone I'm looking at in cash games tonight, but I don't think anybody's going to use him. Just given A, the price, and also and B, like the matchup. Like people just don't like taking pitchers against the Yankees because they feel like it's not a good spot. But like this Yankees team over the past couple weeks, not striking out as much, but against righties, like 25% strikeout rate dating back to last season. This projected lineup that's what they have. Morton, a guy, 27% strikeout rate dating back to last season. I feel like it's a pretty solid spot for him in tournaments. He has plenty of upside, like we've seen it. I mean, what did he put up, like 30 something DraftKings points against this team last time they faced off? So in tournaments, I definitely like him, and there's a pretty good chance he gets run support for the win. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I feel like the more lefties they toss into that lineup, I feel like it's better for him, just given his strikeout stuff has just been superb against left-handers.
Yeah, and you're going to get probably three, maybe. Well, you'll probably get four because you'll have Gardner, probably Bird, Didi, and Hicks. So yeah, that definitely does help him a little bit.
14-game slate here. I don't know how much I'm really going to be looking to pick on Morton.
I'm not looking to pick on him at all here.
Houston side of things, like you said, probably should get some run support here. I think I'm going to be looking at obviously guys like George Springer, but I like Alex Bregman in this spot as well. He's been quiet against lefties this year, but still a lot of fly balls, a lot of hard contact going his way. And he's one of the cheaper guys to get exposure to.
Yeah, he's a fun option. I don't know that I'm going to be going there myself. I think obviously you can't really ignore Jose Altuve at this point. Like the dude's just been absolutely on fire of late, like 2 home runs in his last 3 games. He's just been absolutely raking. So it's really, really tough to overlook him. Definitely don't hate using some Houston bats, like a Houston stack. Overall, like Sabathia, last 3 starts, 8.78 ERA. That's not good. So Houston in a decent spot. Like I really like Max Stassi down towards the bottom of the lineup, assuming he gets in. He's like the only Houston catcher that's been hitting with any kind of consistency of late. JD Davis a cheaper option as well.
Yeah, I like these guys. I mean, they're not that expensive for the matchup here either.
No, like Altuve is probably the most expensive one.
Yeah.
At like 4,900. So yeah, not terrible at all.
Washington, Baltimore next here. You got Dylan Bundy take on Jeremy Hellickson. This game's kind of interesting, I think, as far as GPP bats go. Bundy struggled, against lefties this year. 198 ISO, 368 WOBA. I don't mind using some guys. Obviously, there's pretty big park shift as well. Baltimore's solid for left-handed power, like Harper, Adams, Juan Soto, guys that stand out. I mean, Soto's dirt cheap. He's 3,200 on DK tonight.
Yeah, I definitely like the Nationals as like a tournament stack. They're not one of the top 3 stacks or 4 stacks for me, but as a tournament option or some one-offs in this spot, like I definitely don't hate it. Like Bundy just against lefties this season, like a 228 ISO allowed on his four-seam fastball. He's got a 263 ISO allowed on his slider. He's got a 250 ISO allowed on his changeup. Like not good numbers, and like especially against that fastball that he's throwing a lot, like it averages about 91 and a half. And he's not really breaking that 92 mile an hour threshold, which is when he's kind of starting to thrive. Is if his fastball is breaking 92, then he's actually been better. Harper, a guy that hits that four seamer really well, 389 ISO dating back to last season. Matt Adams, 316. Really good spots for them. Don't overlook guys like Wilmer Defoe towards the bottom of that lineup is cheap exposure here. Like Wilmer Defoe, 3,200 on DraftKings, really, really good price.
Other side of this one, Hellickson. I honestly don't know what I'm doing here. He's getting about a ton of hard contact. I want to like some of these bats here. They are fairly cheap. Like I think you can go here in tournaments for a couple guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Like he has given up a lot of hard contact, especially to righties, but like most of it's on the ground. And it's not giving up a lot of fly balls. Like I don't know if I would pick on him too much, but if you wanted to go with like a Mancini or a Machado or a Scope, I guess you could. But these Boston guys, even in like really or Baltimore guys, even in like really good matchups, just always such a big letdown.
Yeah, I think like Scope's the most interesting. I mean, his numbers against curveballs very solid, 411 1 with 287 ISO, 52% hard contact rate. You know, I don't know. It's guys that hit off speed stuff, and the problem is not a lot of these Baltimore guys hit off speed stuff well.
No, they don't. Like Machado's a little bit interesting as well against that curveball, 216 ISO, 41% hard contact, 70% contact rate. So he's at least making contact sometimes. I think he would be the guy that I have the most interest in out of the Baltimore side.
Yeah. Next game here, we got Chicago and Pittsburgh. John Lester take on Nick Kingham. I don't have interest in either of these pitchers, do you?
Not Lester. I guess Kingham's interesting if you really wanted to get like a value SP2 or something. He's definitely not someone that I'm looking at like as an SP1, but I don't hate him as like a value pitcher in tournaments. Like we're dealing with a very small sample, but like 30% strikeout rates, not terrible numbers against hitters on both sides of play. Like I know righties have a solid 205 ISO against them, but he still has like a 37.5% strikeout rate. But again, we're dealing with a very small sample. Same time, like we know the Cubs really, really struggle at times against these young guys that they've never faced.
Yeah, I mean, like the strikeouts upside's interesting. He's 7,800 on DK. Good ballpark. Yeah, I mean, tournaments here, I think it's fine, but like, because I don't really have any interest in Cubs bats against him.
It would be the righties, like I mentioned, because he is giving up like a 205 ISO to them so far this season, but it's not like it's 45% hard contact, 41% fly ball rates. I guess like a Chris Bryant, Javier Baez is an interesting option, and like Wilson Contreras would be the three that I have the most interest in. I guess Addison Russell is a little bit interesting because he's really cheap, and at shortstop on DraftKings, there's not a lot down towards the mid range or value options.
No, there isn't. I mean, we talked about him before, where that slider has been improved this year, and something he's generating a lot of whiffs on his off speed stuff, his curveball and slider. It's but the fastball, I think we're going to see a little bit of a regression on.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Pittsburgh side of things, I don't mind taking some one-offs here with some of the cheaper bats. Like if you want some exposure to guys like Sean Rodriguez or David Freese, like I don't hate it because they're so cheap.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning. Like they're just value options for me. Like Sean Rodriguez, especially on DraftKings, like at 2,800 at second base is interesting, and then you get the platoon, Max Moroffs, Jordy Mercers that are cheap options at shortstop. But I'm not picking too much on Lester in this spot.
No, not either. Next one, you got LA and Detroit. Nick Tropiano taking on Mike Fulmer. Another two pitchers I don't have a ton of interest in here tonight. We're going to get to some guys I feel soon.
Yeah, this is another spot like I don't have interest in really. I don't have interest in Fulmer in the spot. Like he's just a guy like I hate using him. He just doesn't have a ton of strikeout stuff outside of like once every 4 games or 5 games. Tropiano, I guess, is a little bit interesting. League average strikeout guy, but a decent matchup against a Tigers team that just doesn't really have a whole lot of upside this season. So he'd be the guy that I would be mostly looking at, but he struggles against righties, and this is a pretty right-handed heavy lineup.
Yeah, a lot of fly balls, a lot of hard contact from him. I think there's a couple other guys I'm going to go with in that price range. I'm not really looking to attack here. I will say, like James McCann coming off a big day yesterday, I usually prefer him against lefties, but 2.9s, like if you need a punt catcher option, I don't hate him in the middle of the lineup.
Yeah, but there's better options, I think, at that price. Like Kurt Suzuki's 3,100. And then you're going to get like, I think there's 2 potential Coors catchers that are a little bit cheaper.
Nick Hundley's projected in the lineup. He could be someone.
Yeah, and Tony Wolters as well. But I mean, Nick Castellanos would be a guy that I would probably consider in the spot as like a one-off. But it's just, I don't know. This game just doesn't have a lot of appeal to me from the Detroit side. And same on the Angels, like Upton, Trout, Cozart, obviously in good spots here, but I don't know. I don't want to pick on Fulmer too much.
No, it's the powers come from the left side against Fulmer, and not a ton of left-handers in this Angels lineup that I'm really looking to use here.
No, and you're not going to get Ohtani in the lineup because he's supposed to pitch tomorrow. So unless they scratch his pitching start tomorrow, then maybe he would get in the lineup. But like Luis Valbuena, a good left-handed bat that's been pretty cold recently. Like, let me pull it up real quick. I think I saw yesterday he's like 1 or 2 for his last like 40-something at bats. So not good.
Toronto, Boston, get us some offense here on the Boston side going up against Marco Estrada. Marco Estrada, guy that we like to pick on. A lot of fly balls, a lot of home run potential on both sides. Going to be curious what this lineup looks like, see if Betts is back or not. It doesn't really matter here, though.
No, obviously if he's in the lineup, you can roll him out. He's 6K on DraftKings. That's pretty tough to stomach. 5,500 on FanDuel, also pretty tough to stomach, especially if you're trying to get Coors exposure. But if you want to roll him out, feel free. Boston's obviously one of the top stacks of the night outside of the Coors bats. Are projected for like 5.6 runs. Andrew Benintendi is obviously in a great spot. He's been absolutely raking recently. JD Martinez as well has been on fire over the past like month. He's hitting really well. Devers, anybody that's in this lineup, like I actually kind of like Jackie Bradley at the bottom, who's still cheap and has been actually making contact recently.
Yeah, a lot of hard stuff going on for Bagley. He's 2.9, at least Devers 3.3, Bogart's 4.3, Moreland 4.1. So I mean, I don't mind skipping out, like you said. I mean, Betts, JD, Benintendi, all guys over 5K.
Yeah, you can roll those guys out if you want. But like, I really love Mitch Moreland in the spot now that we're guaranteed playing time for him. Bogarts, Devers. It would be cool if somehow like Brock Holt or Nunez got in the lineup and they just wouldn't play Pedroia, but I don't see that happening.
No. Other side of this one, Porcello, kind of scuffling a little bit of late. Toronto could be without Josh Donaldson here, rather low run total. You going at Porcello at all tonight?
I'll take a shot in tournaments. 10-1 on DraftKings, a little tough to pay for, but this Toronto offense just not very good. Not an offense that I'm terribly afraid of. Like, I think there's a little bit of strikeout upside for Porcello here. And if you don't get Donaldson in the lineup, that's, a power bet that you don't have to worry about. You're going to get like Devin Travis and Gio Urshela and all these other guys towards the bottom of that lineup that offer some strikeouts. So I think he's a fine tournament option.
Yeah, I mean, he's either been really good or really bad of late. I think the only one good start came against Baltimore. He's throwing that slider about 24% of the time this year. It's had some decent success. Something we talk about with Toronto team, just given that no one really stands out against that pitch.
Yeah, like outside of like Yangervis Solarte, who has like an almost 80% contact rate, nobody else has very good numbers against that pitch. So if he's going to rely on that, I do like him.
New York and Atlanta, Steven Matz take on Anibal Sanchez. Definitely like some of these Braves bats here.
So if this game plays, it's definitely in question. There's a flash flood watch supposed to be
tropical storm rolling through, right?
a decent amount of rain. So this game may not even play. If it does, this is a great spot for some Atlanta bats. R.I.P. Acuna.
I know. No. We dodged a bullet, though. It could have been way worse.
Yeah, it could have been. I mentioned Kurt Suzuki, 3,100 on DraftKings against a lefty. Such a good spot for him if he's in the lineup. I know he catched in that late game, or caught in that late game last night, so he may not even be in the lineup. But Tyler Flowers, a guy 424 WOBA against lefties dating back to last season. You can roll him out. He's like 3,200. Albies just rakes against lefties. The Braves are the top stack in my stacking article today for a reason. I love this team so much in this spot.
And I don't even mind like Johan Camargo or like Dansby Swanson here either.
No, you're going to get those guys. There's a Dustin Peterson who's not in any of the player pools projected to be in the lineup. If he's not in the lineup and somebody else like Charlie Culberson makes it, those guys towards the bottom of the lineup are excellent like value options.
Other side of this one against Sanchez, I don't know. For some reason, I feel like this is such a letdown spot for the Mets.
Every day is a letdown spot for the Mets.
I mean, it's true. Like, if we date back to last year, like Sanchez, 395 WOBA, 243 ISO, allowed to righties, 36% hard contact rate, lefties, 334 WOBA, 185 ISO. Like, there's potential here for some cheap one-offs. I don't know if I can fully stack, but I think, like, Conforto and Nemo are interesting options.
Yeah, they're fine. Like you mentioned, he really struggles the most against righties, and you're going to get, 2 righties in that lineup? Devin Mesoraco and Ahmed Rosario. Like, I will say, I don't know if there's like going to be a limit on his innings or anything like that. Anibal Sanchez at 5,100 on DraftKings might be a viable SP2 option.
And I think because there's going to be one here that we get to that's going to be actually kind of popular tonight.
Yeah, I know it's crazy because like Anibal Sanchez, not a guy that you're really in love with as a pitching option, but he might be viable, like I said, as an SP2. Like, I don't know.
He has some strikeout stuff.
Yeah, and I know we're dealing with a very small sample, but this season against lefties in the innings that he's pitched, like 38% strikeout rate to lefties. And if you're getting a very lefty-heavy lineup, it's pretty good. And like even last year, 23, 24% strikeout rate dating back to last season. If this lefty-heavy lineup is out there, and outside of like Nemo and Conforto that you mentioned, he might be able to navigate pretty easily through this lineup.
Yeah, I don't hate it, and I think, as long as weather projects to be okay, like I think there's a better shot at a win than what Vegas is giving them.
I kind of agree. What do they have at right now?
They're just 126 favorites.
Oh, yeah, that's not that great, but wind blowing in would definitely help his fly ball tendencies.
Yeah, for sure. St. Louis and Milwaukee or Zach Davies taking on Michael Wacha. I don't have interest in either of these pitchers, do you?
I don't hate Wacha. Like, I mean, the dude's quietly having like a career year, and I don't think anybody's really talking about it. He's 8,400 on DraftKings, not a terrible price for him. A couple of bats in this lineup that you're kind of concerned with, but like, I think he's a fine option in cash too. Like, I don't hate him here.
He's had a relatively decent floor of late. Like you said, he's kind of flown under the radar because I think a lot of people, including myself, have just not huge Wacha people. I do think Travis Shaw and like Christian Yelich are interesting. Those are kind of the 2 bats that I like against him. More so Shaw, just saw numbers against that fastball, of course, but that changeup as well.
Yeah, those are the 2 bats that I'm most worried about. And then you're going to get like Jesus Aguilar, who continues to absolutely rake. And I hope the Brewers don't like bench him when Thames comes back next month. But those are the bats you're really worried about. But there's definitely some strikeout upside in this lineup for him tonight, like for Wacha. So if you're not using the Yelich's and the Shaws, I definitely think you can roll Wacha out.
Other side of this one, interesting here, like Zach Davies, a guy giving up a lot of hard contact this season, good ballpark. I don't mind taking some flyers on these Cardinals bats. I'm just kind of burned out doing so.
I am as well, but I mean, Matt Carpenter has actually been good recently. Like for all the bad things we said about Matt Carpenter, like he has been on fire. Homers in 2 of his last 3, actually hitting the ball really, really well in that leadoff spot. I don't hate using him here. I think we're back to like Matt Carpenter being the safe cash game option on any given night. Davies, a guy struggling against righties, 247 ISO allowed this season. You're going to get like a murderer's row of Martinez, Pham, Ozuna, O'Neill, Chet Jerko in that lineup. I actually like Jose Martinez and Pham and O'Neill a lot in this spot, like especially O'Neill.
All these dudes just mashing sinkers, which is obviously something, and have some good power numbers against the pitch. I like Tommy Pham at 4,700. Jose Martinez as well, like 4,200. Like these guys are some decent prices. I like the O'Neill call. He's been a guy who's been in the lineup and hitting the ball really well.
Yeah, and don't overlook like Francisco Pena. If he's behind the dish, 2,900. He's one of those cheap catcher options for you.
Minnesota at Kansas City. Kyle Gibson take on Danny Duffy. Danny Duffy 4K. He's a guy I think that's going to garner some interest because he's just 4K.
You think so?
I've already seen a couple of people talking about him already. Like they're just plugging him in.
Interesting. I don't see it.
Like, I mean, I don't either. Like, I don't like the matchup. I don't like Danny Duffy at all. There's a reason he's 4K, I think,
Yeah, that's not – wow, that's kind of crazy. Like, I know he's coming off a good game.
Against Texas.
But yeah, I'm gonna take a hard stance on no Danny Duffy for me. If it blows up in my face, so be it. But like, yeah, that's a hard pass for me.
And it's like, I know the Twins, they haven't been great against lefties this year. A lot of the bottom half guys especially just haven't really shown up. You haven't seen Grossman be as solid, Buxton as well compared to last year. Brian Dozier hasn't been as solid. I don't know if something's up with him, but I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to look and go, oh, Duffy against this Twins team that, does strike out quite a bit against left-handers, and they're going to plug him in. But I'm with you. Like, I kind of rather take some shots against him, like you use like Snell. I know Dozier hasn't been great against lefties, but 3.9 is interesting for him.
Yeah, just I can't believe people are going to use Duffy. Like, dude has like a 7 home ERA this season, like 15 earned runs, 6 homers given up at home this season. And you're facing a team like, I know he's throwing that slider, especially to righties like 24% of the time, and he's throwing that 93 mile an hour 4-seam fastball a decent amount. But like, man, this is a good spot for Dozier in this spot, like 42% hard contact, 434 ISO against that fastball. Miguel Sano, who's been heating up, 293 ISO against that fastball. Escobar, excellent spot, I think, for Escobar, especially at a shortstop spot that I'm not terribly in love with. A bunch of the mid-range options, he's in a really good spot. Mitch Garver, 2,700, he's in a really good spot. I love the Twins, especially now that people are talking about using Danny Duffy. Like, I'm going all in on the Twins, and even Robbie Grossman, who has some decent BVP against Duffy. Like, I'm going all in there.
Yeah, I like some of these guys as well. Like the run total up near 5. It's a warmer day there in Kansas City. I'm with you.
Yeah, even like, oh man, Robbie Grossman's only 2,900 on DraftKings.
Yeah,
hello, buddy.
So, Kansas City side, I don't know if I'm using Gibson here, but I don't really look like I'm going to attack him all that much.
No, I'm probably not using him and not taking anyone against him. If I was, it would probably be like Moustakas and like Salvador Perez if you just want like a safe catcher option.
Yeah. Coors next. I got Jeff Samardzija taking on Kyle Freeland. I don't mind some guys in this game. It's it's the lefties for Colorado here that I don't mind. Although David Dahl, looked banged up after yesterday's game. It would be guys like Cargo and Parra. They just haven't been performing though.
No, but it's really tough to ignore Gerardo Parra at that price on DraftKings, like 3,500. What is he on FanDuel? I know I'm focusing on DraftKings a lot because FanDuel is garbage, but 3,300 on FanDuel as well. So really solid price for him there. And it would be pretty crazy to like try to profile these guys against sharks like pitch mix because he throws like everything like 20% of the time this season. But I mean, I guess he's kind of a sinker dominant pitcher. Parra, 338 Woba, 34% hard contact, decent contact numbers against the pitch. Blackman, obviously, in a really, really good spot. Dahl, if he makes a lineup, is in a good spot. Ryan McMahon and Tony Walters towards the bottom of that lineup. This could be a pretty lefty-heavy lineup against a guy that really struggled against lefties dating back to last season.
Yeah, McMahon, obviously, we know the talent's there. He hasn't done much, but the majors hasn't really gotten to the lineup a ton. But, yeah, 2,700 for him.
Yeah, both him and Walters really, really cheap exposure to this game.
Yeah. Other side of this one, against the Giants, even in Coors, like I can't get terribly excited about them outside of like a couple guys.
I can get pretty excited about a few of these guys. Obviously, we mentioned Gorkys Hernandez at the top of the podcast has been just raking recently. He's projected to lead off. I don't hate the idea of using him. 378 Woba, 178 ISO against left-handed pitching this season. Obviously, we know McCutchen is a guy that has generally raked against lefties. Like I'm having flashbacks of what was it 2 years ago when McCutchen hit like 3 home runs in Coors. Like I'm having flashbacks to that. Like every time I fade him, he's really cheap. Like 3,700. These guys in the outfield, Mac Williamson, Gorkys Hernandez, McCutchen, so freaking cheap. Like I really like the spot for those guys.
Mac Williamson, I like 3,900. McCutchen as well. Like they're all at nice prices. If Hundley gets in the line, they're 3,500. Evan Longoria, like he hasn't been bad against lefties this year. He's been really good. 389, well, but 292 ISO. Guy who's hitting the ball pretty hard as well. Like I don't mind him at his price.
Yeah, I don't like I said, these guys, these San Francisco bats are really cheap, and like I don't know that they're going to be overly popular here. Like I think this is a good spot where you can get some exposure to them. And they're like in good spots. Like Longo hits that four-seam fastball really well. Posey hits that four-seam fastball really well. So does Mac Williamson. Even a guy like Kelby Tomlinson is dirt cheap, and he fits that like low-cost shortstop option if he gets in the lineup. Someone else that you can look at. Like I really like a Giant stack here.
It not costing you much. Like you compare him with some pretty solid pitching.
Yeah, like I could build a Giant stack and get like 2 top-tier pitchers. Like I know Freeland's not a guy that we generally like to pick on, but they're still so cheap.
Yeah. Cincinnati, Arizona next. Luis Castillo versus Zach Godley. I don't mind Castillo in this spot. Arizona over the last 3 days has just been god-awful, striking out at like a 26% rate. We've seen Castillo start to turn out some better outings. That strikeout rate up to 26% in the month of May, which is good to see. And he's still cheap.
Yeah, he is really cheap. This is a pretty solid spot for him. And he's a guy like that strikeout rate was going to come up at some point. Like the dude has like a 14% swinging strike rate dating back to last season. And if you look, like people with swinging strike rates that high are generally striking out like 30+% of hitters. So like that strikeout rate was bound to come up. 25% strikeout rate dating back to last season for Castillo. You mentioned this Diamondbacks team just been putrid as far as strikeouts go. Like, what do we got? Like a 25% strikeout rate dating back to last season for that projected lineup. He's cheap. He's like $8K on DraftKings. That's a really solid price for an SP2.
Yeah, like I think I'm going to go overboard on Castillo tonight just because of the price and upside for him.
Yeah, there's definitely some risk because he has struggled, if you look, dating back to last season with lefties, and you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lefties in that lineup potentially. So there is a little bit of risk there.
Oh,
Bless
sorry.
you. But like I think he's worth taking a shot on for sure.
Yeah, I do too. And the guys that I would have interest in would be like a David Peralta at that price. But outside of that, I think there's better third base options than like Jake Lamb right now.
Yeah, I mean Socrates Burrito is a cheap bet to get that you can look at 3,200 on DraftKings. Probably not even in the player pool on FanDuel. Um, oh, he is. He's 2K on FanDuel, so he's probably going to be like the chalk value, like outfield option, and I don't hate using him.
Zach Godley here, 8,600. Kind of some pedestrian outings of late. I don't know if I can get behind Godley tonight. Like I want to, but I don't know if I can.
I'm not going near there. Like I'm definitely just I would be more inclined to stack against him than use him in the spot. Um, I'm definitely off that train. Like the Zach Godley we got at like the start of the season, not here anymore.
No, but I mean, I do think like Votto and Jeanette are interesting options at their prices, and I think they'll just go completely overlooked. Eugenio Suarez is interesting as well.
Yeah, because we've seen Godley like against righties this season, 339 WOBA allowed, but 42% hard contacts, 32% fly ball rate. Like I know this is a pretty hitter friendly or pitcher friendly environment now, but like you can still get some exposure to the righties here. Eugenio Suarez, Jose Peraza, but I don't hate like the Vados and Jeanettes. Scooter's been just on fire recently.
Yeah,
He was absolutely raking.
it was funny. Did you see that stat that Jeanette has more hits and cores than Desmond does this year?
Yes, it's freaking awesome.
Next game here, you got Tampa and Oakland. Daniel Gossett taking on Blake Snell. I don't mind some Blake Snell here tonight for some strikeout upside.
Oh, I love Blake Snell. He's like one of my top pitching options on the slate. I mean, this Oakland offense, like we know, we know they hit the ball really, really hard, but obviously that gets mitigated a little bit by the park. They're striking out like 25% of the time against lefties, dating back to last season. They have a few guys that you're a little bit worried about, but Blake Snell has just been so freaking good this season. It's just such a good spot. And 10-6 on DraftKings, way too cheap, I think, for him at this point. Like 8,700 on FanDuel. Like, come on, really? Like that's like just almost lock and load territory there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, he's been pretty much automatic against left-handers. You will still see a couple of guys in there, but for the most part, they're going to like load up on right-handed bats. And like you said, the hard contact's the only concern, but great ballpark here. We've seen him start to limit walks this season a little bit better than prior years. I'm with you. I'm on board.
Yeah, and I mean he's doing a good job of limiting hard contact to the right side of the plate this season. Like 32.8% is not a number that's really that bad. 299 WOBA allowed, 191 ISO, like 26% strikeout rate. Like this is just a really good spot for him.
Yeah, I'm not really picking on him here.
No, I'm not either.
Daniel Gossett, a guy dating back to last year. I mean, has struggled against both sides of the plate. I don't mind some value here, like just because they're so cheap. But I mean, they're kind of like a late slate offense, I feel.
Yeah, I'm always in on some like cheap Tampa Bay bats just because they tend to go overlooked. Like I kind of like Gomez a little bit where he's got a 207 ISO against righties dating back to last season. I wish he wasn't batting towards the bottom of that lineup, but decent spot for him. Like Gossett's allowed a 245 ISO to righties dating back to last year. That would be where I would lean the most, I think, would be the righties. Like I know he doesn't have great numbers against lefties either, but they could load up this lineup with a lot of right-handed hitters, and it could be a pretty good spot for them. Like the Willie Adames, the Daniel Robertsons, the Johnny Fields, those guys, decent value bets here, and CJ Cron as well.
Yeah, definitely. Texas, Seattle, Austin Bivens-Dirks taking on Felix Hernandez. I don't have interest in either of these pitchers. Do you?
No, I'm definitely not touching Bivens-Dirks and not even touching Felix in the spot.
No, I like a Seattle stack tonight here.
Yeah, they made it in my stacking article. Bivens-Dirks, a guy saw him struggle in that first start this season, and like everything looking back at last season suggests that that wasn't just an aberration. Like he's going to be just not a very good pitcher. Like I don't know why Texas fans are excited about this guy. Like no strikeout stuff like at all. 521 xFIP last season, low swing strike rate. Yeah, I don't understand the obsession with this guy.
No, I don't either. And, both sides of the plate are appealing here. Righties do have the harder contact. Back last year, 43%. Haniger, Cruz, Seager in play. But even guys like Span and like Ryan Healy, Kyle Seager, I mean, all these guys, Mike Zunino, like I 1 through like 7, I like a lot.
I absolutely love like the back end stack of like Healy, Heredia, and Zunino. Like those are the guys that I'm focusing on the most. Like Zunino in the spot, he's a guy that I always talk about. Like he's going to strike out a ton. He doesn't have a lot of on base potential, but he has a ton of power, and he's 3,200 in a really good spot against Bivens Dirks. But you could make a case for Segura, Span, Haniger as well. But like I think I'm leaning towards the bottom of that lineup the most because they're the cheaper options.
The other side of things here, like with Texas, I don't know how much I'm going to go to him here. I think like Nomar Mazar and like Shin-Soo Choo are interesting, or like a Joey Gallo, kind of the usual suspects against Hernandez, but like they're all kind of just one-off GPP plays here.
Yeah, I kind of agree. They're decent value-ish options like Joey Gallo, 3,900, Ronald Guzman towards the bottom of that lineup, 3,600, Odor, 3,100. Profar not great against righties, but he's 3,600. Mazzara is pretty cheap. Chu is pretty cheap. Like the lefties are the guys to target because Felix has really struggled against lefties. What a 205 ISO allowed dating back to last season. That's kind of where I'm leaning the most. Like the guys that hit lefty or hit righties pretty well from the left side of the plate.
Yeah. Next one here, you got Philly and LA. Jake Arrieta taking on Kenta Maeda. Maeda's just been on a solid strikeout spree of late, 25 over his last 3 starts. Good potential here for him to kind of keep that role, and the Phillies continue to just strike out a ton. And I don't mind some Maeda here.
Yeah, the downside is Rhys Hoskins probably not going to be in the lineup, so you're taking a bunch of strikeouts out.
Yeah, he needs a new face.
Yeah, he does. This is a good spot for Maeda. We've seen like 20 strikeouts over his last like 14 and 2/3 innings. Really good strikeout potential for Maeda. Again, it's the same thing with him. Like you do have to be a little bit concerned that Dave Roberts is going to do what Dave Roberts does. But I can't argue with him being chalk here. I think he's a fine chalk option. Still does struggle a little bit with lefties dating back to last season, and you're gonna get like Caesar, Odubel, Santana, Nick Williams potentially in that lineup, and that's a little concerning. But he's still such a good option just because the strikeout potential is there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, still some strikeout stuff on the left side, which wasn't the case too much last year. Not really looking to pick on him. Maybe like an Odubel Herrera just because he's been hitting the ball well, but there's still better options, I feel.
Yeah, I agree there.
So, LA, I don't know how much interest I have in Jake Arrieta tonight. He's cheap again, 7,500. I might be just kind of going with a couple other guys for some, I think, higher strikeout upside.
Yeah, like that price is really, really intriguing, especially on DraftKings at 7,500. I think it's important to note, like these Phillies pitchers, for some reason, you get them outside of their home field, and like they're just not very good. Like Arrieta, if you look, let me pull it up. But like these guys, and I saw a stat like his home ERA 0.0 or 0.84, his away ERA 5.12. It's an issue, I guess, for their entire pitching staff for the most part. If you wanted to roll them out, like this Dodgers offense has been pretty putrid for the majority of the season, but like Arrieta, a guy that has struggled dating back to last season with lefties, and you're going to get like Max Muncy, Grandal, Bellinger, and Jock Peterson, that does concern me a little bit.
Yeah, it does for me too. Like, and Muncy's been the guy who's been on fire.
Yeah, he's a guy I definitely have some interest in the spot.
And like we've just seen Arrieta just pitch to contact this year, like 84% contact rate, swing strike rate 6.9. Like he's just been a guy who's just kind of relying on that slider or sinker and just kind of trying to get through.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, were you taking anyone here? Lefties are just kind of spouting them out.
Max Muncy and like Bellinger are interesting options here.
Next one here, we got Miami and San Diego. Dan Straley taking on Tyson Ross. I have a lot of interest in Tyson Ross here tonight. At home, been pitching really well. You just look at him this season. I mean, has thrown 6 or more innings in 9 of 10 starts this year.
Can I get a hot take out of the way?
Yes.
Tyson Ross is the second highest scoring pitcher on tonight's slate.
Which is kind of wild. Like it is. It's kind of wild, but it kind of isn't. Because he's been good.
He's been really, really good. This Marlins offense is not good, and they really struggle against sliders. And Ross is a guy throwing that slider over 40% of the time this season. So I absolutely love him in the spot. Like he's just in such a good spot against this offense. Like I said, I think we could have like a replica of that Arizona start where he went like 7 2/3 and had 10 strikeouts. Like I think we could see that again tonight.
Yeah, the whiff rates. I mean, 7 of 8 bats, not including the pitcher, with over 30% whiff rate against the slider.
Lewis Brinson, 50% whiff rate against the slider.
Yeah, so I love Tyson Ross. I feel like he's at a pretty reasonable price as well, 9,200. And I kind of think the Padres could get to Straley a little bit here.
I think so too. So I think he gets a little bit of run support, but also I just don't think anyone's going to use him. Like people still, you say the name Tyson Ross, and people they still think he's just absolutely terrible, and he's really not. Like we're seeing the old good Tyson Ross that we used to see because that slider is like freaking filthy.
Yeah. A Padres side of things here. Straley just giving up a ton of fly balls, ton of hard contacts, and I think it's going to catch up with him at some point. Like he's been extremely lucky, I feel, to start this year.
Yes, he has, and like he's still giving up like lefties this season. 382 WOBA allowed, 232 ISO allowed, but like last season it was completely different. Like dating back to last season, 222 ISO allowed to righties, 323 WOBA allowed. So like if you wanted to roll out like anybody from this Padres offense, like I think they're in a decent spot and they're a good tournament stack because no one's really going to use them. I love Jankowski leading off in that spot, but like Perella, Margot, Franmil Reyes, interesting guys in the spot, and then like Rafi Lopez is a pretty good like cheap catcher option at 2,600.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Home run calls. So what do you got tonight?
Mitch Moreland.
You got to be kidding me.
And Miguel Sano.
I'm going to go Juan Soto and I'm going to go Max Stassi.
I dig it.
So that's it for us. You can head over to DaveFastlyCafe.com, check out our tools and content, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Good luck tonight.